Let me start again. I was muted. Hello, hello, hello. It's Lily Enrique here, parenting strategist from the Parent Support Network, coming into you today with episode 6. So I'm super, super excited today. Today is an amazing day for me. I'm starting a new parenting course this evening on my my Parent Support Network group, and I'm starting a 9-week parenting course, and I have had so much interest. I'm really, really excited. I think I've got 4 new people enrolling just today, which is fantastic. So thank you, thank you, thank you to all of those people who are putting their trust in me to guide them on their parenting journey. It's something that I'm super, super passionate about. But today I wanted to talk to you about parenting styles or parenting personalities. And there are lots of different, styles and personalities out there that people talk about. And when you think about parenting, my perception of parenting has actually changed, because I used to kind of consider that parenting was a role that we had or just something we did, right? But parenting really is more about a relationship. It's a relationship we have with our children and within our family, with our partner and with ourselves, but around our parenting journey. So it's about the relationships that we establish as parents, right? And for me, that parenting journey is something that is forever until my box day. So it's not when my children grow up and become adults and I say, okay, you're on your own now. My parenting journey is forever. So with what I teach with the Nurtured Heart approach, it really doesn't matter where you're coming from in respect to your, parenting, whether you want to call it a parenting type or a parenting style or a parenting personality. Really, the most important thing is that you are a parent who really just wants to enjoy, better relationships, more fulfilled, heart-centered, connected, beautiful, mutually respectful relationships. However, I will just go through briefly the 4 parenting styles that I have taught in the past in my parenting work, keeping in mind that I have been doing this parenting work now I've been a parent for over 35 years, but I've been doing this specific parenting work since my youngest son, who is now 28, was about 5 years old, so about 23 years. And for most of you who know me or know about me, you'll know that we've had quite an interesting and roller coaster journey with our parenting and our relationships. And I've written 6 books about that as well. However, along the way, I've seen, as I said, I've seen lots of different, parenting styles talked about, or parenting personalities. But the 4 that I used to talk about are passive, aggressive, manipulative, and assertive. Now, you may have taken on a parenting style that has come from your parenting experience. So either one of your parents may have had this parenting style, or you may be parenting the complete opposite to the way you were parented, because that parenting style was not a style that you wanted to pass on to your children. And a lot of people share that with me. When I was parented, it was tough. My parent was strict and strong, and there was not a lot of, loving connection and relationship there. And I do not want to do that. But sometimes we go into default, don't we? Especially when we're a little bit stressed, or, things are a little bit challenging in our family and with our kids. And we kind of go back to that place of where our default parenting kind of personality is. So let's just run through these first 4 personality types. And I know there are lots of different names out there and different people who call them different things, but at the end of the day, these are just examples. It doesn't define who we are as a person or as a parent, but it just gives you a little bit of an idea, maybe what you're leaning towards in your parenting at the moment. So there's the passive parent. So the passive parent is, usually in general, a passive person. So they're the parent or the person who kind of withdraws in confrontations, particularly when they're challenged. And when it comes to parenting, the passive parent tends to easily give in to the child's demands, because they really just don't want to rock the boat. They want, they want the kids to be happy, and they just don't want the stress of confronting or challenging the child in any way. So in some ways, they kind of just allow the children to do what the children want to do because it's just easier, right? And often, this parent is the type of parent who also doesn't follow through with consequences. So they might dish out a few consequences, right? But they might not necessarily follow through with them. And the thing is that kids are really switched on, right? And they are in tune to our energy. They are in tune to the vibration of our energy and how we are parenting. And kids often ignore these parents, these passive parents, and don't listen to them because they basically know that this parent won't follow through. Even if they threaten or, say something or say, if you don't this, then that's going to happen. But because of their passive nature, they often don't follow through and let it slip by. And that is challenging for the child because the child doesn't have that, sense of knowing what the rules and consequences are and how things go in this family, because either mum or dad, who's the passive parent, really just kind of lets things slip by and slide by, if that makes sense. So you might be relating to some of this, and it's not a negative thing if you're a passive parent, but it just really means that you're not really strong in what you want from your children and from your relationships with each other. Because if you don't have boundaries, like imagine if you're playing basketball or tennis and there are no rules and there are no boundaries, like the ball can go anywhere, anybody can do anything, it doesn't really matter, there's no rules, there's no boundaries, there's no over the line. Everybody's going to be confused, nobody's going to know what they're doing, and it's going to be chaotic, right? And nobody's going to be happy because there's no sense of having any clarity on how life works in that time. But the passive parents can sometimes kind of put up with stuff, and then finally, when they're totally, frustrated and exhausted, and they're like, oh, can't do this anymore, they'll then blow up. And sometimes they can really blow up, right? And the kid or the other, whoever in the family goes, oh my gosh, what has just happened to mum? What has just happened to dad? Where did this come from, right? Because it could have been over the last, weeks or months or even years that they've played this passive role, and then all of a sudden, bang, they blow up, and the child kind of is like, what just happened, right? So that's the passive parent. Now, the aggressive parent is obviously quite opposite to the passive parent. And often the aggressive parent can be also a little aggressive in nature and personality in general. So the aggressive parent angers really easily. The kids frustrate them. They get angry easily. They tend to do a lot of yelling and screaming. They tend to be very loud. The aggressive parent may use put downs with the children, say things inappropriate, call them names, or just use inappropriate language for the children, which once again is not a positive thing for that child's experience in this relationship. They sometimes may get physical. They may punish the child, hit the child, reprimand the child, use loud and aggressive voices, scare the child. They can sometimes intimidate children using fear. And I know, many parents of times gone past have perhaps parented in this way, using fear, using intimidation. They may attack their children with words or with actions. And, what can actually happen is that they might think that they have so-called control over the children for so many years. But what can actually happen is either the children just may end up being really frightened and intimidated, and that might then follow through into their adult years. So they might be a frightened and intimidated person as they, grow older and into their own person and into adult years. Or they could become really rebellious and defiant, which we see in a lot of children, right? And they get to a certain age or a certain size where you ain't telling me what to do anymore, and they really become very defiant or rebellious. Or they could end up both. They could be, frightened and intimidated and also become very rebellious and defiant, but usually it will be either one or the other or both. So aggressive parents need to look at the way that they are communicating and relationshiping if they want happy, healthy, and harmonious relationships. So we then have the manipulative parent. Now, I think one way or another, many parents, if we were to be totally transparent with ourselves and honest, we probably have used manipulation at various times with our children. We have used guilt to get our children to behave or to conform. And, you know, I've probably used it in the past, you know, but I now understand how negatively detrimental that is not to do that. And sometimes the manipulative parents would, you know, compare a child with another child. So it could be, you know, why, if only you could be good like your big brother or your big sister, or if only you could behave the way such and so behaves, or why can't you be like such and so, like comparing them to somebody else. You know, Joe keeps his room clean. Why can't you? Why is your room always so messy? Why can't you be like Joe? And they can manipulate the children, and they can use excuses like, you know, sickness, or, you know, if you don't behave, you know, mum will get sick again, and you give me headaches. If you don't behave, I'll get a headache. Or, you know, you're going to give me a headache if you don't listen. I think I might have said something like that in the past. Or they might use bribes or threats to control the children. Now, who's ever heard this one before? You just wait till your dad gets home, or you just wait till your mum gets home, right? So we use threats to try and control the children. Or we might use threats like, if you don't such and so, say for example, if you don't clean up your room, then there'll be no computer, no TV. If you don't listen to me, you know, you won't get to go to the party. You won't, you know, get to do what it is you want. So they're basically using bribes to attempt to get their children to be compliant or cooperative. And if you have ever been that manipulative parent, you'll know that it really just doesn't work, right? Or if it does work short term, it certainly is not a long-term strategy. And it's not a positive strategy for either of you, right? For either of your relationships. And then the fourth one that I talk about is the assertive parent. So this is moving closer towards the type of parenting that aligns with what I teach in the Nurtured Heart. So the assertive parent is more clear, more firm, you know, more determined and confident, and even, might I say, relaxed in the way that they communicate. So they're not using, you know, the loud voice. They're not just letting kids do what they want. They know what they want. They know what the rules are. They know what the consequences are. They know how they want what they want the relationship to be like, but they do that in a really confident and relaxed manner. And kids respond really, really well to that. So they tend to do more things like negotiate and compromise with children rather than controlling, as did the aggressive parent and the manipulative parent. And they're not really threatened by the conflict. You know, they tend to be more, you know, cool and calm about things, just having that inner knowing that things will work out okay if they're just cool and calm, and if they treat the children respectfully. You know, I call it my law of mutuals. You know, if you want respect from a child or from anybody in your life, you need to show them respect. If you want cooperation, you need to be cooperative. If you want love, you need to show love. You know, it's a law of the universe, right? So the assertive parent is probably more in tune with what they want, and having a positive and cooperative and happy relationship with their children. So they tend to give a lot more positive recognition and encouragement at every opportunity. And if they do need to make some sort of request, it's clear and firm and fair. And often, you know, the assertive parent will discuss with the child and have some room for compromise and you know, looking at the other person's point of view and not just it's my way or the highway. So if you're listening in live, I'll just check on my phone to see if anyone is listening in live. Otherwise, if you're listening to the replay, just let me know if you can relate to any of those parenting styles. Is there one in particular that you relate to yourself as a parent, or is there perhaps one that you particularly relate to that might have been your parent? You can't see it there. That might have been your parent as you were parent, as you were a child and you were being parented. Did you identify your mum or your dad as particularly being passive or aggressive or manipulative or assertive? And, you know, sometimes we can step into, you know, from one to the other, but you will probably find that you probably would relate to one of those four, passive, aggressive, manipulative, or assertive, more than the other three, even though you can step into the other parenting types or personalities. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, I really just shared this with you just to give you a bit of an idea on, you know, particularly when we reflect back on our own parenting and look at the way we were parented, we can probably possibly see that, and probably both parents were different. You may have had, you know, a passive dad and an aggressive mum, or you may have had a manipulative mum but an assertive dad. If you had two assertive parents, that's awesome, lucky you. But you might have had a parent that might have been almost passive aggressive, like at one moment they could be passive and the next moment they could be aggressive, or they could be, you know, passive and then manipulative. So they can actually interact with each other. However, what I'm so excited about is it really doesn't matter which one of those you fit into. And if you are passive aggressive or manipulative and you're going, oh my gosh, I really don't want to be there, that's not kind of what I want for my children and my family, that's okay, because, you know, you can work on that, because it is just really a decision. If you feel that, you know, you are aggressive, or that you have maybe taken on, you know, some things from your parenting experience as you were growing up, and you feel that might be kind of almost in your DNA, right? So mum was aggressive, therefore I'm aggressive, or mum was aggressive, therefore I'm passive. You know, we can actually learn another parenting language, which is why I'm so very, very passionate about the Nurtured Heart approach, which is what I teach. So no matter where you're sitting with those four personality types, parenting personality types, if you are in a space where, and even if you're falling into that assertive, so the more positive parenting style, if you're in a place where, hey, I'd really like to notch up my parenting, I'd really like to understand, you know, how I can be a better parent and how I can have better relationships, I highly recommend you look into the Nurtured Heart approach. So my course that I'm starting tonight is full. As a matter of fact, it's over full, because I had a limit of 10, and I think we've got 12, maybe even 13 people enrolled, which is fantastic. But I will be doing more courses. Please do reach out if you are interested in learning more about the Nurtured Heart approach. I have got some masterclasses, which if you're on this page, on the Parent Support Network page, you will have access to. And just know that no matter where you are today in your parenting journey, that it can improve, that things can get better, that you can learn new and better and more positive ways to communicate and relationship with your kids, with your partner, and with yourself. Because of course, the way that we talk to ourselves, our self-talk, is very, very important as well, in the way that we relationship with other people. So I think that's it from me today. I just really wanted to share with you, you know, that there are different ways that we parent, and they can be labeled sometimes, just like I've shared with passive, aggressive, manipulative, or assertive. And I know I've Googled online, and there's a whole bunch of other, you know, parenting types or personalities out there. But at the end of the day, it really is about you making a decision about how you want to feel in your parenting relationship. Do you want more loving, connected, heart-centered, mutually respectful relationships? Do you want your kids to listen and cooperate? And do you want to feel really good about your parenting, other than, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, you know, I can't do this anymore, the kids aren't listening, you know, this is happening and that's happening, or I'm feeling overwhelmed as a parent. You know, no matter where you're at, there are ways that you can improve that. And I believe in my 25 almost years as a parenting strategist and in my 35 plus years as a parent, I believe the nurtured heart approach is the way to go. It really is. I've done so much work in this area, and I'm absolutely in love with the nurtured heart approach because it is such a beautiful way of connecting with each other. It is a way of being. It is a way of relationshiping in general. But of course, if you are really wanting to work on your parenting relationships with your kids, and it doesn't matter whether they're 2, 12, 22 or 42, right? As I said, our kids are our kids forevermore, and we want to nurture and grow those relationships so that, you know, we can continue having a great relationship with the child when the child is an adult and goes into their own life, you know, gets married or has a partner or, you know, has their own family. We still want that great relationship, right? So that's really what we work on as a parent, to have a relationship where our kids want to hang around us, where they want to be with us. So that is it from me. I said that a few minutes ago, but I can always take a few more minutes to talk about what I'm passionate about. So I just want to say thank you. If you have listened in, I hope it has been helpful. I hope you have learned something. If you're willing to share, pop in the chat box below if you feel aligned to one of those 4 parenting styles, or anything that you got from this, anything that you learned from this, or, you know, it might be, oh, look, I really identified, you know, my mum and dad as being, you know, aggressive and passive, or manipulative and assertive, or whatever you identify with, or if you identify something in yourself, please share. I love to know that you're getting value from this and that it is helping you in some way. So thank you for tuning in to episode 6. I'm super excited to be connecting with the families who are joining us on our Nurture Your Heart to Greatness course starting tonight. We're going for 9 weeks. I will be doing some more courses, so please do reach out if you feel this is something that can benefit you and your family. So that's it from me, Lily and Ricky, parenting strategist from Parent Support Network, helping parents to enjoy happy and healthy children and relationships on purpose. Bye for now.